Hi, and welcome to Best in Tesla. So Tesla just gave us production and delivery numbers of Q2, and the quarter was down from the previous quarter for the first time in a long time. But Tesla is gearing up to blow everyone's expectations out of the water in Q3 if everything goes right, because Tesla did just make the highest production number ever in June, and we can speculate about what those numbers were because we do have some numbers to go by and what this means for the rest of the year. Because if Tesla doesn't see as many headwinds as they did in Q1 and Q2, we could see the Tesla ramp in all of their factories really starting to pay off and take Tesla to new heights where no one else can keep up. So let's have a little bit of fun with the numbers as we dream about what this could look like if everything goes right from here on out. And let's dive right in. So, Tesla just showed us they had 254,654 units in deliveries and 258,580 units in production, and told us that June was a record in production numbers. But how high was those June numbers? Well, Tesla sales in the first 5 months should have been 406,000 units, according to Morgan Stanley, that have its numbers from the EV volume. So I do think those numbers should be very close. And when we take a look at the combined sale of Q1 and Q2, we can see that Tesla has delivered 564,000 units so far. So that means that Tesla delivered about 157,000 units in June. Just in June. That is some crazy high numbers. And since the Shanghai factory has been locked down for most of April, I don't think Tesla has been sitting on a big backlog of cars. And Tesla's deliveries and production numbers have always been pretty close, usually only a couple of thousands in difference in a whole quarter. So it would be a very rare month if this is not the case in June as well. So we should expect that the all-time high production numbers in June to be pretty close to the delivery numbers. So about 150,000 units. Let's just say 155,000 units in production in June in just rough numbers. That means if Tesla is able to keep that up and we have no more lockdown or other bad situation, Tesla should be able to produce about 930,000 vehicles just in the last 6 months. If they can just keep up the production from June and don't ramp up. But we of course know that Berlin and Texas will ramp up quite a bit over the next 6 months. But if they didn't, Tesla would still be able to get very close to their 1.5 million vehicles that Elon was talking about. But Tesla is ramping up fast. We don't have all the numbers to go by, of course, but we do know that the Fremont factory is producing at its all-time high at the moment, and we know that China should have made a record in June, and we know that Berlin should not have produced much more than 8,000 units in June, and Texas to be somewhere around that numbers as well. We did hear rumors about 5,000 a week, but I still think that's a bit too high. But we also heard that it should be producing more than 2,000 a week, so maybe about 8,000 units a month as well right now. So if we say Texas and Berlin combined produce about 16,000 units in June, that still leaves about 139,000 more units to have been produced in June from the Shanghai factory and the Fremont factory. So if we say the Fremont factory is back at the all-time high of 600,000 units a year, then they should be able to produce about 50,000 a month. If we then subtract that from the 139,000, we end up with 89,000 units from the Shanghai factory. That does sounds a bit too high, but SITIC Securities did say they expected Tesla in China to produce about 87,182 units in June. So we are close to those numbers we heard about before. So maybe this is not too far off. But Troy Teslack, that is very good at predicting these numbers, and I usually only a couple of percentage off with his prediction. Only think that Texas produced about 2,000 for all of Q2 and Berlin about 9,000. Again, we are talking about deliveries and not production, but let's just say those numbers will be very close. But if this is the case, Fremont and Shanghai might be selling about 5,000 more than what we just talked about between them. But since we're not trying to be completely precise here, let's just run with it and say this is about what was produced in June. I don't think we're too far off here with the Berlin and the Texas factory, and if Fremont actually produced 55,000 or 57,000 and China 84,000 units or 86,000 units, it doesn't really matter that much, because we know Tesla is aiming for about 22,000 units a week for Shanghai, and they should be very close to that, if not already there, with these numbers we are seeing here. So I expect the Shanghai factory to be able to produce about 22,000 a week going forward. This is about 3,142 units a day. So in a month with 30 days, we are talking about over 94,000 units in production capacity, and in the ones with 31 days, we are above 97,000 units. So let's just say the average of 95,000 units for the rest of the year for every month. That is about 570,000 units for the second half of 2022, just from the Shanghai factory, if all just runs smoothly, which it probably won't, but that is more than all of Tesla did produce in the first half of 2022. If they can pull that off, I will be very, very impressed, and man, what a ramp that would be within the same year from just one factory. Of course, helped by the extra low first half because of the lockdown, but still very impressive. And if we then say the Fremont factory will be able to produce about 50,000 units a month, we are talking about 145,000 units in a month from those two factories alone. So they should be able to produce about 435,000 units in Q3. Optimistically, of course. But in the second quarter, the Shanghai factory was ramping up the Model Y production. It produced about 32,000 units, so an average of 8,000 units a week, just like Berlin and Texas should be at right now. So if both Berlin and Texas are able to do something like that, and I think they could, as we know Berlin is now producing 24/7 with 3 shifts, and German media reports that Tesla is holding production at Giga Berlin for 2 weeks to reorganize production and speed it up from 90 seconds to 30 seconds per vehicles. If that is true, we are looking at a tripling of the production speed. That would be amazing. This is not breaking news though, as the media wants us to believe, as we have known this for a while, that this was coming, and also known that the Berlin would have to stop production at some point in this summer of 2022 to get the production line ready for the 4680 sales. And that is probably exactly what they're doing here. Keep in mind, Giga Berlin is not yet in a position to start producing cars with the 4680 battery cell because the battery production facility is not ready yet. However, when it's ready, Tesla wants to have the production line ready to start production immediately. So if they want to stop production to reorganize the production, Tesla will probably want to make the production line ready for the 4680 cell as well. So I see this as a very good sign, and Berlin will probably keep both lines running together for a while until they have the 4680 cell production ramp up to high numbers, just as the Texas factory is doing right now with 2 lines, one with the 4680 cells and one with the 2170 cells. So they should ramp up quite fast as well. And both Berlin and Texas have now started production of the long-range Model Y as well. So I think that's a good sign that the production is ramping up quite well. So I do believe that Tesla should be able to at least keep up with the ramp we saw in Shanghai when they ramped up the Model Y there. So let's just say that both of those are able to ramp up to the 32,000 units for all of Q3. But this time it's not just one factory, but 2 factories, so that will put an extra 64,000 units on top of the 435,000 units from Shanghai and Fremont to get us to 499,000 units just in Q3. Q3. This is way above what anyone thinks. Troy Tesla, which I will not want to bet against because of his track record, but he is talking about 368,000 units. But his numbers is of course an exact guess with downtime and everything, where the numbers we are talking about here is the maximum production capacity. But he does only set the Shanghai factory at about an average of 66,000 units a month in Q3. I don't know why he put the Shanghai numbers that low, but Troy is probably just calculating in some downtime. But if Tesla really made somewhere between 70 to 85,000 units in June, I think 66,000 units is quite a low number. And Fremont he has set at an average of 45,000 units a month in Q3, and is also cutting the Texas and Berlin numbers in half from the ones we just talked about. So he will probably be right again, but I do think Tesla might have a production capacity of close to 500,000 units already in Q3. But that is capacity, and they will probably not hit those maxed out numbers. They of course will have some kind of downtime as the 2-week shutdown in Berlin for the reorganizing of production. But with the production rate they have right now, that would only be a loss in production of about 16,000 units. But if we see a smooth quarter in Q3, we could have a very nice surprise coming of maybe as high as 450,000 units. And if we say Berlin and Texas will be able to ramp up to 50,000 units for the last quarter of Q4, we are talking about a maximum production capacity about 535 units in Q4. So that would mean that Tesla still have a chance of getting to 1.6 million this year, even with all the headwinds and lockdowns and so on. So if the supply chain issues will start losing up here in the second half of 2022, and I don't think China will make a lockdown like that again, I think they learned how much they hurt their own car industry doing so, then maybe this is not all that unrealistic. But that would be my very optimistic guess for 2022 production/delivery numbers. So I do think Elon's guess of 1.5 million vehicles is still in play. But remember, just because Elon has said they have a chance of getting over 1.5 million, Tesla's guidance is still 50%, so just about 1.4 million. But hopefully we will hear more about that in Q2 earnings call on the 20th of July. But 1.4 million will still be a big win for Tesla here in 2022. But we will of course know a lot more after July and see what kind of numbers Shanghai is able to produce and how the ramp is going in the two brand new factories and so on. No matter what, Tesla's growth is just insane. Remember, it is only back in 2020 that Tesla produced 500,000 in a whole year. And by the end of 2022, they might be able to do that just one quarter. Yeah, I know. The competition is ramping up, right? Well, the competition has been ramping up for the last half decade. We did see a doubling in plug-in sales from 2020 to 2021, and we will see more than a doubling this year again. And have any of all of this competition slowed Tesla down? No, not even a little bit. Just look at this chart from James that shows trailing 12 month in deliveries from Q1 of each year. So trailing 12 month smooth out all the bumpy month and quarters, and we just see the growth. And as you can see, Tesla has done nothing but speed up. This is one heck of a steep curve. And I think James next year after Q1 would have to put in something like 1.7 million trailing 12 month. That is not slowing down. The competition can come all they want, the more the merrier, but it will not slow down Tesla, as we can see it has never done. And Tesla now has 2 new factories that will ramp up and is already working on expansion for the Shanghai, Texas and Berlin factory. Yeah, good luck Volkswagen, Ford, GM on catching up with this bullet train called Tesla. Simply not going to happen. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.